I want to begin with what we just heard from the governor of Oklahoma, because so many women in your state of Texas have been looking north, looking to Oklahoma as the closest place they can get to for abortion services. That is now closed to them. What can Texas women do now?
Lawrence, this shows you just how dangerous Greg Abbott, the governor of the state of Texas, is, certainly for the people of our state, especially the women who are now prosecuted and forced to flee to other states to make their own personal health care decisions about their bodies and their futures. But not only does it hurt us here in Texas, this craziness, these fringe policies are being exported to the rest of the country, including our border state now in Oklahoma. It makes the point that what happens in Texas matters to this entire country, given the outsized role that this state plays. And Lawrence, it's happening at a time that not only are women denied their constitutional right to seek an abortion, but in the least insured state in the country, it is now even harder for women to get a cervical cancer screening or any kind of reproductive health care help at all. And it is producing a crisis in maternal mortality that is worse in Texas than almost anywhere else in the developed world, and 3 times as bad for Black women in this state right now. This is literally killing women here in the state of Texas, and it makes a case for why we need a change and how urgent that need is right now, and why so many people are joining this campaign to make sure that we make it happen.
To go to where you were today at the border, it seems Governor Abbott is doing everything he can to increase inflation, not just in Texas, but increase prices around the country. One of the constant flows across that border, as you obviously know, are automobile parts for the manufacture of cars that are being finished in the United States, manufacturing process being finished in the United States. Those parts now are delayed. People are waiting for cars at dealerships now in America. It's very hard. The supply of new cars, used cars are really under pressure. And this is just one of the examples of the inflationary and demand pressures that are increased by what's happening at your border.
That's absolutely right. These trucks that Greg Abbott has blockaded from coming in to the United States are carrying parts that are destined for the factory floor in San Antonio, where we build the Toyota Tundra and Tacoma, to factories in Ohio and Michigan and other parts of this country. It's going to jeopardize jobs throughout this state and throughout the United States of America, for that matter. It's going to increase prices at our grocery stores even higher, and it's worsening a supply chain problem that we already had. And this didn't have to happen. It's the decision of one man and one man alone, Greg Abbott, some kind of political stunt that does nothing to improve the safety or security at our border, because these inspections are for, Lawrence, things like the tire pressure or the way that the engine might be running in that 18-wheeler. Those DPS inspectors are not allowed to look inside to look at the cargo for illegal drugs or human trafficking. And so this does nothing but hurt the economy of Texas and the United States, and it's killing businesses here. Some have already relocated to Nogales, Arizona, 1,200 miles away from where I am in McAllen tonight, and they're taking jobs and economic growth to that state and leaving Texas right now. This is hurting the people of Texas.
People have been looking to you as the hope in the Democratic Party to win statewide in Texas. First against Senator Cruz a few years ago, now again in this governorship. And so this race has much more at stake, both for the Democratic Party and for democracy and America, than what we've already talked about, which is the difference between a Democratic governor and a Republican governor in the state of Texas. If you can show that a Democratic candidate can again win statewide in Georgia, in Texas, that really would eliminate the Electoral College as even a factor in the outcome in the elections, because the popular vote count then would never disagree with the Electoral College outcome at the same time. Do you feel both the pressure to have this breakthrough for democracy in Texas, and how realistic now do you think it is?
I tell you, I think that the people of Texas and really the people of this country understand that whether it's the chaos that Greg Abbott's creating on the border, this war on women, or this attack on democracy, harder to vote or register to vote in Texas than it is in any other state. If we want to do something about it, we have got to win this next election. And in so doing, get focused again on the things that are most important to all of us: great jobs, world-class schools, the ability to see a doctor, Republicans, Democrats, independents in this state. And I know, because I've listened to them everywhere across Texas, they can agree on that much. But first, we've got to win. And Lawrence, yes, I'm really encouraged because more than 61,000 people have signed up to volunteer, to knock on doors, to go reach those voters who are the very targets of voter suppression and voter intimidation in the state of Texas. And I think it will be some profound justice on election night in November of this year, when those same voters who've been targeted for exclusion become the margin of victory when we win this thing. And we're going to win it because we have our fellow Texans out there knocking on their doors and bringing them into this democracy. I wish that the Department of Justice would intervene on voting rights right now. I wish the Supreme Court would do the right thing on a woman's right to choose, but we cannot hold our breath or wait for the cavalry to arrive. We've got to depend on one another. But I'm encouraged because as I travel this state, people are stepping up to be counted, going out there, getting after it, and doing the work that will win elections. So I actually feel really good about things here in the state of Texas. Texas stepping up to fix our problems and to make sure that we overcome these challenges and win this for the people of Texas, and given our outsized impact on this country, for the people of the United States.
Before you go, I have to ask, what's the difference in this campaign? What's the difference between the campaign where you came up short against Senator Cruz and this campaign against Governor Abbott? Why do you have a better chance now?
You know, one thing is the person that we're running against. Greg Abbott owns everything that's happened in the state of Texas. The power grid failure, it was his fault, that killed hundreds of our fellow Texans and raised every single person's utility bill in this state. We call that the Abbott tax. These culture war issues that he's involved this state in, pitting us against one another, further dividing Texas when we should be coming together around great jobs, world-class schools, and the ability to see a doctor. And then on our part, we're making sure that we're investing in data to target those voters who are truly persuadable, or those likely Democratic voters who need a nudge to turn out, or better yet, Lawrence, those voters who've been functionally disenfranchised, knocking on their doors to bring them into this election, and prosecuting the case, fighting this guy day in and day out, making sure that he's on the back foot and against the ropes, owning everything that's going wrong in Texas, because he's been the governor of this state for 7 years. So if it's the inflation and the higher prices and the job-killing policies that he's currently implementing on the border, if it's the fact that we are sliding in educational attainment and losing teachers by the thousands as he attacks them in this state, I'm going to make sure every single Texan, Republican, Democrat, independent, and otherwise, understands who's to blame. We're going to make sure that we fire Greg Abbott and change this state for the better. We were not prosecuting the case this aggressively against Ted Cruz, and I know that we left votes on the table. We're not making that mistake this time. We're going to make sure every Texan knows why we need change, and we're going to turn them out to vote so that we actually get it.